Let's run cut 4, Michael. Let's run 4. Here's anti-ICE protesters stormed a church during services in Minnesota with Don Lemon and shut down the services. See, I go to church and now I'm being stormed by anti-ICE protesters. And we're supposed to sit there and say, this is fine. 4, roll it.
Pull people off the street and you start dragging them and hurting them and not abiding by the Constitution. When you start doing all of that, people get upset and angry. And if you remember what the Civil Rights Movement was about, the Civil Rights Movement was about these very kinds of protests. And for some reason, in our modern era, people think that in order to have protests, you got to be, cordoned off to a certain area and, what time you can protest. There's nothing in the Constitution that tells you what time you can protest. You can protest at any time. That's the whole point of it, is to disrupt, it's to make uncomfortable. And that's what they're doing. And that's what I believe when I say everyone has to be willing to sacrifice something. You have to make people uncomfortable in these times. If you see how uncomfortably and how harsh people are being treated on the streets, you have to be willing to go into places and disrupt and make people uncomfortable.
So Don Lemon goes into a church, disrupting the pastor's services on a Sunday. People went there to hear their sermon and to pray to the Lord and get closer to God. And instead they get disrupted by anti-ICE protesters, and that's supposed to be okay. Let's get to 7. Here's an ICE agent scolding a protester, saying that we're here to arrest a child sex offender, you freaking moron. 7, roll it.
That vehicle right there is honking and impeding our investigations while we're trying to arrest a child sex offender. That's who you guys are protecting. Insane. That's what we're doing. My word is not with you.
Insane.
My word is not
Insane. They're impeding an arrest of a child sex offender. But see, that doesn't matter because a child sex offender is one of their voters. It doesn't matter if they're legal or not. And they are sex offenders or pedophiles or rapists, or it doesn't matter. They're a voter. They're part of their vote base. They're part of their power base. Therefore, they need to be protected. Oh, so a kid got sexually abused. So a lady got raped. It's for the greater good. Collateral damage. This is how they think. That's just collateral damage. Sorry you got raped and brutalized by this illegal alien. Sorry, but, they represent our vote base and our power base. So, at the end of the day, suck it up, buttercup. It's for the greater good. The greater good. That's what it's for. So sorry you got raped and brutalized and beaten. One day you'll understand. This is part of our revolution, and we need these voters, and we can't expel them just because they abuse somebody or rape somebody or, hurt somebody or dealt drugs or scammed billions of dollars. It doesn't matter. We need them. They're our voters. They keep us in power. They give us money without working. That's our peeps. Got to protect our peeps. This is really now what the Democratic Party represents. Child abusers, rapists, murderers, thieves, domestic violence, traffickers. It doesn't matter. As long as they got their vote, they're good. This is how we have to start understanding what we're dealing with. We refuse to come to grips with what we're dealing with. Somehow we got the RINOs out there thinking, well, these are just, protesters upset. No, they're protecting their base, and they're paid. All these people are paid. On Friday, a friend of mine, Darren, called me up. He said, hey, I got a friend of mine called me. I put this video out. You can follow me on TikTok, at JF Radio Show. I put this video out. And guy's in Grand Rapids. He's flying to Richmond. So he's, waiting there for his plane, and there's a bunch of ragtag people getting on the plane there, and starts talking to him. And so he finds out there's a bunch of them, and they're paid protesters. And they're going to Richmond, and then they're going to go for Spanberger's inauguration, and they're going to protest there, and then they're going to D.C. to protest there. They get paid $600 a day, plus food, plus meals, plus air, plus hotel. So they're in Grand Rapids, flying to Washington, D.C., paid $600 a day, so that's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So they're going to get $2,500 for 4 days, free air for a free hotel, free meals. Not a bad gig. These are paid protesters. They fly them in from all over the country to agitate, and they pay them $600 a day. This is not organic protesters that are upset. No, these are paid communist agitators. We're just not getting it. And it's a sad state of affairs. All right, joining me now, Tim Marden, Marketing Director, John Birch Society. Governor's releasing criminal aliens onto the streets. What do you make of this whole thing, Tim Marden?
Well, great to be here, John. I really appreciate you having me on the show. I think there's a lot of chaos going on right now, but we have tracked this stuff for more than or almost 70 years. And the reality is this is part of the strategy. This is what they use, create a lot of pressure from below. And then you have people like Don Lemon going into churches, or at least showing videos of people in churches showing a lot of chaos to bring also pressure from above. This is something called a pincer strategy. We've talked about it over the years, and this is really what we're seeing in full bloom right now.
So, I mean, you look at this, Tim, and it's just maddening. And of course, you have the whole fake news, 100% behind these people, calling them peaceful protesters. They're paid agitators. I just told you the story about the guy coming home from Grand Rapids. These agitators are paid $600 a day. They're there 4 or 5 days. They're getting $3,000 plus meals plus hotel. I mean, this is like a profession now. They're paid. What I mean, so for the fake news to go around, these are protesters, the First Amendment. No, they're paid agitators.
Yeah. Oh, this is part of the plan for sure. They are paid, and I think by and large, a lot of America has just been very naive as to what's been going on underground, so to speak, or behind the scenes. But this is exactly what we've been writing at our news channel, thenewamerican.com. What we've been writing about in our books and pamphlets, et cetera, at the John Birch Society. So this is all not. This is not new, folks, and I think we need to wake up. It's very important to understand that we are not going to win this at the keyboard or the couch. We have to get involved with our city councils, with our county councils, our school board, and some of these state and national races, because at the end of the day, if you are not at the table when these things are going on, these decisions are being made, they're going to be made for you. And we say a lot that, you may not be into politics, but for sure, politics is into you, John.
Where does this end?
Pardon me?
Where does this end? How's this end?
Well, I think it ends when, I was listening to your lead-in earlier, and I see some of the same observations. I think it ends when you have an AG that actually has a backbone to actually arrest some of these people. As I go around, I've been to a lot of things. I cover a lot of stuff. And, by and large, people want to see people in chains and jumpsuits. We have, the Clintons who are obfuscating, being called to Congress. We see, folks in Minneapolis. There's nobody minding the store, John. Why does it take a YouTuber and a researcher to expose all this stuff that we're seeing up in Minnesota? There's no accountability, and people are very frustrated. You heard the caller earlier. She's very frustrated, but I think she's just a symptom of a bigger disease where people are very frustrated because we've sort of left this up to supposedly the good guys when the good guys are not doing what they're supposed to be, and there needs to be accountability at the ballot box, at the town halls, at the representatives' offices. And we really, hopefully can help you do something like that with the John Birch Society. We kind of really think of ourselves as an on-ramp to meet you where you are and get you involved in what is going on, so we don't have to be able to pass this on to our kids also.
Well, you make a good point with the YouTuber going to Minnesota. Like, where's our fake news media? I mean, when I got media a long time ago, this is what you did. This was the story you wanted. Everybody would fight to go cover it and try to figure out, get to the bottom of it and follow it and write stories about it and have a series of exposés. What about this fraud? Not a peep out of anybody. Minnesota Star Tribune, St. Paul Pioneer Press, ABC, NBC, CBS, all the local stations. Not a peep out of anybody. Not even a story on it.
Nothing.
Right? Nothing. Zero. And some guy with a camera has to go up there and uncover all this fraud. Who is independent journalist with a channel, with a social media channel. I mean, it's incredible.
It really is incredible. But, all that stuff in media really started changing a while back when they realized, it was much easier to be cozy with the machine than to argue or fight against it. We really have to lean on independent journalists at this point. And there's a lot of great ones that are out there. I'm actually very surprised and very hopeful, because most of these people that are doing the tough things that used to be done in media are being done by young people, right? I think we all need to lean into that and think of, how beneficial it has been to have these people go do these things when the old school media, the archaic media won't do it. They refuse to do it. And there's some very special circumstances in Minnesota. If you think back during the Obama administration, and he's not the only one, we had a lot of this immigration going in there. That's how you got the Ilhan Omar's elected. That is her district. But you also have an AG in Minnesota named Keith Ellison, a very extreme leftist, very encamped with the Obama administration. And this sort of thing that we're seeing today is really just the fruit of all of those seeds that were planted back then. It's been very deliberate. It's been very specific. And I don't think it's unique. Unfortunately, I think things like this are going on all over the place, and you see these paid protester groups that are all over the place. I think that's where you saw some of the money going to Stacey Abrams in Atlanta was going towards those different things. And it'd be curious to look at some of those organizations and see exactly what the 1099 show, wouldn't it?
$2 billion.
Yes.
$2 billion to Stacey Abrams' nonprofit to move refrigerators around. I mean, you just think of how stupid we are. I mean, this has got to be the stupidest country. $2 billion.
Somebody else is going to do it for us. And the reality is that they're not. I mean, let's look at the history. They're not going to do something for us, and we have to take ownership and be part of the solution.
It's just hard to even fathom the amount of fraud that's gone on, the grift that's gone on. All these politicians, they come in with, not a pot to piss in. They come out worth hundreds of millions of dollars. How do they do that? No one seems to know, right? Sure. No one has ever done one expose. Like AOC came in, and I'm not singling her out. They're all this way. I just pops in my mind. She comes into Congress. She has no money. In fact, I remember a story on her by the Atlantic or something, where they were like swooning over the young lady. And she couldn't pay her rent and get an apartment here until she got her first paycheck. Been there, she got elected in 2018, right? 7 years later, she's worth $50 million. She makes $180,000, and she maintains ostensibly 2 residences.
Right.
Washington and New York City.
Yep.
One of the boroughs, I forget, Brooklyn or something.
I think she's from the Bronx.
The Bronx, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Bronx. So she got 2 residences, she makes $180,000, and in 7 years you go from, I need my paycheck to pay my rent and deposit, to I'm worth $50 million. How do you do that?
Yeah, this is really just part of the machine and part of the laundering that you're seeing. You know, all these monies that go through these organizations like the Leering Daycare Center and these non-emergency medical transport companies are ultimately, the shell game is to move it over into campaigns, into campaign donations and things like that. But that is really kind of the loop. What I'm really afraid of is that this is not isolated to the Democrats, and I'm certainly afraid that the Republicans do it as well. I'm very libertarian about a lot of these things, and quite frankly, you know, the solution here is the Constitution. We put together a great series recently called The Blueprint for Liberty. You can check it out on our YouTube channel, and it kind of goes into the constitutionality of these different things that you're seeing in Congress, because at the end of the day, they have the purse strings and they're writing the checks. If they were not authorizing this money to begin with, it never would have went all the way into Minnesota.
Yes, you're so right. Tim, thanks for being with us. People want to follow you. Where do they go?
Well, just check us out at jbs.org, thenewamerican.com. We're on all the socials, so it's pretty easy. Just search and find us, and we're on YouTube as well.